You're now watching The Wash Daily. Today in news, a Pew research study was done on cannabis opinions over the past 20 years and how they've changed. The study went up until about the end of 2019. It looks like 90% of Americans support legal cannabis, at least medicinally, and pretty much young people support it recreationally as well. That's over half of the Americans in the report. I think they said 60%. The largest group of folks who are anti-cannabis are what they call the silent generation, people born between 1920 and 1945, which is an interesting time period because that's the first group of people to grow up with cannabis prohibition. Up until that point, hemp was never outlawed. In fact, it was utilized heavily. The entire country was built on it. It covered the wagons, and it was used for food since thousands of years ago. So this is the first group of people who didn't have any cannabis. They also had the most wars, and they had the most hardship, probably. I mean, they come through the Great Depression and World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Prior to that, there wasn't a world war. So, not to say there wasn't wars, but just there wasn't a world war. Wars have increased in the 1900s, big time. So anyway, those people don't like cannabis. Maybe they will sooner or later. And what it's showing is they are. Also, news today, California is having a hard time curbing their illicit market. What they're doing is they're gonna, instead of with taxation or figure out how to lower the price to make them more competitive, what they're gonna do is hire more police. They're gonna take any money they are making from cannabis and they're gonna hire more police to go around busting illegal cannabis operations. They've been doing a lot of spying using drones, finding the cannabis grow operations in Northern California, and that's where they're focusing. But they're going to start looking even harder now. You know, all these states are looking to fix their budgets. They want the weed money because everything's all screwed up because of the COVID-19. The only way to have safe cannabis is to regulate it because you can't trust anybody to do the right thing, except for government. Also in news today, Maine has had a really slow rollout of the recreational cannabis program, and part of it was because what Maine has done is they, for the first 2 years, they said nobody can open up a cannabis shop or be connected to any cannabis shops in Maine if they're not a Maine resident. So only Maine residents can fund the operations. They have to be all local. And their idea was they would give the locals 2-year head start to get established in Maine before the giant cannabis companies come in and take over, which they're doing. So there was a story a while back where one of these multi-state operators who also had stores in New York was suing the state of Maine. They said that there was a constitutional violation because Maine was favoring in-state residents to out-of-state residents. And it didn't look like it was going to hold up in a court of law, so Maine said, okay, we're going to drop the residency requirement. However, now residents have filed a lawsuit against Maine because they were told they weren't going to have that kind of competition for 2 years. And one of the groups said that their business model was based off of having special access to Maine's cannabis consumers. And so they're suing to restate residency requirement for opening a cannabis dispensary. Now, Maine still hasn't got their recreational stores open, and they're now blaming the COVID-19 problem, saying they can't do it because of COVID-19. But it's been a few years coming, so it's a convenient inconvenience. Thanks for watching The Wash Daily.